Let's go over there. Hang out over here on my side. Already? Good? I'll call the Wood Village City Council meeting to order, May 28th, 2024. And I will read the land acknowledgement statement tonight. The Chinookan peoples, known as the Clackamas and the Cascades, are indigenous people in the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. The ancestral life of these people included the seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty in 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, assimilation that still impact the many indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Any citizen comments?
No requests for public comments, and Councillor Clark message saying he's on his way.
He's on his way. Thank you. We will, I won't take action on the consent calendar to take formal action, but is there any comments that you'd like to make? Okay. On the Nature Walk and Community Cleanup Day, I do have a question or just a comment on the Nature Walk.
Please.
I'm impressed that we're pushing out and working with Hispanic community to offer those in Spanish. I did have plans to go on one of those bird walks. I never made it, but I saw that there were 30 people, plus or minus, on that bird walk. And I've always been wanting to, see if I can identify more than 3 birds. But what I was interested in that is as we work with the park, and I know Council President here, Rio Campos, is on the Parks Committee, and Greg, you sit there. As we thinking about the parks and our efforts at really creating a top-notch gem, a jewel in East County for parks, thinking about bird habitat. And I know I've fooled around with it and tried to plant things in the backyard that might, a bird or two might land there. But as the parks, when they get one of their discussions, it seems like it might be a place to add that as a piece of why we spend time, money, resources on our park for the environmental impact it has for bird habitat. So that was my comment.
Yeah, and I could add quickly to it. So when we did these walks, those that were leading them, they were all very impressed with the quality of our natural part of our park on the back end, in both what it provides for opportunities for plant life as well as animal life. The interesting thing about then bird habitat, one of the primary components in this region for bird habitat are Himalayan blackberries, which are also an invasive species. So it's kind of one of those, as you remove it, because we ought to remove it, it's also thinking about what to replace it with that provides, the same shelter and coverage for birds and smaller critters and things. So we had a walk this afternoon on our nature park grant application, and the habitat portion was brought up as part of that potential project.
Well, I don't know very much about what the habitat's supposed to be, so I know there's always going to be a balance with it. And, but that's nice to hear and interesting too.
We do have an active bat box in the park too.
Yeah. All right. Too bad, insects. That's the rough grounds there. Councilor Clark, nice to see you.
Mayor.
We're just going through, I will take action down on the consent agenda, and I'll still leave it open to some conversation on the community cleanup. But is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, the consent agenda is approved. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. So that approves this council minutes for April. So the city events, we're just talking about the nature walk. Any questions from the staff report on the community cleanup day?
We're still waiting for the full tonnage reports, but we got rid of a lot of stuff that day.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions on that. Then we'll move forward to the presentation on the PGA rate update.
Good evening, Mayor John.
Good evening.
Thank you and council members. Also to our city manager, Greg, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. My name is Larry Beckett-Hall, and I'm the Senior Vice President over our strategy and our advanced energy delivery. Long title for old guy that's been around a long time. Has worked not only at PGE, I ran the transmission for Bonneville. I've worked at Clark Public Utilities on that side of the river, and also Pacific Core for 17 years. So kind of been all flavors, all colors of money, seen all the utilities. And the amazing thing is the electrons are the same. The physics is the same. So I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to come and speak here tonight and talk to you a little bit about the rate review process that we're going through, what's been happening, and hopefully answer questions and open up for other dialogue. And Brianna is with me as well. And so many of you may know her as well. And feel free at any time if you want to reach out for questions to myself or her. We're happy to respond and get back to you as quickly as possible. So with that, if we start, see if I, oops, I bet I'm supposed to use the arrows. Go back here.
Just
Right,
you can
next.
just left click on the slide.
There we go. I'm so used to using the left-handed mouse. I don't know why I trained myself to do that, but thank you. All right. So, and I'll just say that really is a privilege for us, all of us that work at PGE, to serve the communities that we do, included from you here at the north end, I'll call it, all the way down to Salem on the south end, and all the way over to towards Forest Grove, and along the Cascades here in Mount Hood. The area we serve is beautiful, provides a lot of potential, and has been a great place for many of us to live. But we've been doing it for over 130 years. Started out, and believe it or not, was a bit of innovation. When the Willamette Falls generation site was put in, the first DC transmission line from that dam out to the city of Portland was put in, 14.4 miles. It was converted to AC, single phase, and then to 3-phase AC immediately thereafter. That was the first AC long distance transmission in the United States. And it harkens to say that innovation has been a part of us. But we also know that that was right at the World's Fair in Chicago. If you remember, there was AC and the DC fight that was going on. Edison, Westinghouse, Tesla stepped in and solved on the AC. And the reason why I say that is sometimes we wonder if they built it here, because if it didn't work, nobody'd have to know about it. We were far enough away from the east, or we could be heroes just having built it here. So anyway, it's been the origins of our business here. And, you know, we just think a lot of, as you're mentioning, history means something to us. I think, as we think about our customers here and the challenges that we're facing, yeah, we'll talk about what is behind some of the rate increases and what's been taking place. But if I were to look at the past history, and this kind of runs us back to 2015, you see pretty flat through this whole time until we got to 2023, we filed. Or excuse me, 2022, we filed a rate review, and I'll talk about the process here in a moment. That was 12% increase. And then again in 2023, that became effective in 2024, which really started much of the dialogue was this winter, having a January 1st a bill increase, which means the coldest time of the year. The highest bills that customers receive ends up being in a January. A lesson learned for us was that it was not only partially January, but partially December. So if you got a bill, it would look like part of it was under an old rate and part of it was on a new rate. You had double lines on everything. And needless to say, our customer service reps were on the phone with a lot of customers. They also called the Oregon Public Utility Commission and asking lots of questions. And so created a lot of work. I'll just lesson learned. One, January is not the best time of the year to have a rate increase if you're going to have one. Number two, if you do it, make it simple, and we've got to make our bills simpler. The confusion that caused was a lot of work for a lot of people. But the third thing that happened was a storm. To have the storm in January was kind of the not a good adder to the circumstances. And then on top of that, filing another rate review that started in February, and it's asking for a 7% increase. And I'll get into that in just a moment, but talk about a perfect storm, everything adding up. You kind of have to stand back and ask ourselves, how do we think differently here? So we're learning some lessons here, but I'm not sure that everybody is familiar with what the process of a rate review and what happens. Obviously, the Oregon State Legislature has given the Oregon Public Utilities Commission the authority to oversee and regulate the utility. And so if we're going to file for any sort of a rate increase that goes to them, they begin a process, and it's a minimum of 10 months of hearings where the public is invited. In fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago, this Thursday, we had the first public hearings for customers to comment on this particular rate review. And that will go on for 10 months. And so there will be hearings talking about the prudency, talking about all of the requests that are made. And finally, at the end of that 10 months, the commission will make a decision at that time. There is, I think people get the idea that there's guarantees. There's no guarantees. They will make their decisions based on the information that they get, that they've received from the public as well. So I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding of what the process is and what we go through. The 7.3% overall increase that is being asked, that would be effective sometime in 2025. Majority of it is capital investment. So there are a couple of things that are happening: aging infrastructure and replacing a lot of the poles and upgrading for that purpose. There is growth involved. So we've got a number of our communities that we're seeing a lot of growth and picking up on that. And we also put in new batteries. So there are 3 batteries that are being installed, one here in Troutdale, which is roughly 200 megawatts. There's a total of almost 500 megawatts in these 3 sites. That's pretty significant in terms of storage, and then allowing us to operate the system in a different way. So we've got renewables, and we've been bringing them on, both wind and solar. And what happens is the wind doesn't blow all the time. The sun doesn't shine, obviously, 24 hours a day. And so when it does, and if you have excess energy, you want to put it into some sort of a storage device. As an industry, we haven't had storage. That's other than hydro, and you think of reservoirs, that's been our storage in the past. So batteries are a new form of storage for us. And what we anticipate is that it will give us a lot of flexibility to help us operate the system much better. We will have almost 10% of a storage capacity compared to peak of our system. 10%, is that a lot? Is that a little? I will just compare it to California, and I'll just say very similar. About 10% of their system they have in batteries now. And so I think we're going to have a lot of flexibility to help us in operating the system in a better way as we go forward. But these enhancements, like I say, 75% of that rate increase is associated with that. The other part that has hit us hard has been the power cost. And so in the past, the hydro was prevalent. This last year and then the prior year, water was pretty short in terms of the snowpack in Canada. California did really well. We've had a significant amount even in our mountains here, but it has a very short distance, doesn't hit all the dams coming down the Columbia River, for instance. If you get into Bonneville Dam, you're doing pretty well. And then we have our west side, and we have the east side generation that we have. So that hydro really does help us. But if you're short in Canada, that means prices are going up all over the Northwest. And so we're also seeing a lot of flows coming from the south. So it's cheaper with the solar and the hydro that they've had in California. So it drives energy north. There's restrictions on the system. We're finding, we've never seen it in the past where we've seen that much load wanting to flow from California up into the Northwest. So it's a new phenomenon that we're starting to see, and it's because of those renewables being placed different spots across the entire West. We did have our Clearwater reservoir or wind resource come online. That's Eastern Montana, and that's been great for us this spring. Really has been a big benefit. What you find is it may not be blowing in the gorge, and it might be blowing out there in Montana, or vice versa. It might not be blowing in Montana, but it's blowing in the gorge. So we see a balance. We're seeing more of that across our wind fleet. So that's been a really benefit to us. And we're going to look for more of that as we can. As we've shut down some of our thermal operations, that means you're replacing it. What are you replacing it with? And I'll just say it's a combination: wind, solar, batteries. But it is needed, and those are the costs that are associated. Something else we've done with our customers this particular round, there's been various energy and assistance type programs, whether it's energy efficiency, and there were a number of federal programs, but we started our own low-income program as well. So those on fixed incomes, those that meet the qualifications, there is a benefit there in the income qualified bill discount program. And so we know that's been a benefit to quite a few of our seniors across the entire service area that are taking advantage of that. And this is kind of, again, a show of what we've seen of people who have actually been signing up. And you can see there's roughly 80,000 customers that have, and you can see the color coding of the percentages of the discount that they're receiving. The other subject that is causing a bit on the cost is wildfire protection, and making sure that our facilities are not causing any wildfires. And one of those effects is what we call a public safety power shutoff. And so in areas, we have 11 zones, and I didn't bring the map with me tonight. We have 11 zones across all of our service area that have actually been identified as high fire risk zones. What we do is we determine by the fueling, meaning the either grass, trees, brush along the right-of-way. We look at the mortality rates of the trees along that as well. And you see how much exposure, and then you start to consider humidity and wind. And if those along with the temperature are up, then we see, and it will trigger for us, the public safety power shutoff zone by zone. We don't look across them, and treat them all the same. We actually look zone by zone. Part of that is also where the fire departments are located, kind of response we would get. But I just call out that, it has been an increase in our expenses associated with wildfire undergrounding facilities, as well as hardening, as in iron or metal poles / covered wire in those areas as well. We do wildfire ready events that we've had scheduled, and so we've been doing a number of those around and asking if those that are interested, wanting to participate and understand more about wildfire events to come and join us. But with that, let me stop and open up for questions, and we could touch on just about anything if you want to jump into it.
Thank you, Larry. Questions?
So so as I understand, you've turned off all of the coal plants that you've had in the past, right?
Boardman was our large one, and we did shut that down in Oregon. The one that still remains is in Montana, the southeast corner called Coal Strip. We still have about 190 megawatts associated with that plant. It's scheduled to be turned down later in this decade, so don't know exactly. There's been different dates that have been put out.
And then you also have gas-fired plants that are still running, right?
We do, yes.
I'm just asking.
Yep, yep.
Just general questions. And then California, you always hear about all of their fires that they have due to transmission lines that are, catching forests on fire and stuff like that. But we don't hear so much of that here in Oregon, and it's a good thing.
Well, yeah, it is. What we've seen is the weather patterns. Hate to say it, but the dryness moved up. And if you looked, back to the 2010 timeframe and saw what happened in Southern California and the way it moved its way up towards the north, you could see the wildfires migrating, moving. I would also call out the transmission lines typically that you see out here, and I'll call out either ours or Bonneville's, that, and steel towers, usually high enough above the trees, don't have that issue. It's the distribution lines that are below. You got the tree canopies hanging over. And so over 50% of our outages are due to vegetation. And so maintaining that, cutting it back, and like I say, or ultimately, if you're undergrounding it, those are the only ways you avoid that vegetation issue.
But we always see all of the tree trimming that's going on around here that's done really, really well. So that's a good thing. I was trying to think of any kind of really good questions, but I really can't, other than I understand that the rates have to go up at some point for a multitude of reasons, just like we have to look at our rates for the same reason. So.
Well, our dedication is to really, and I appreciate your questions, Councilman Clark, that our dedication is to keep it down as much as possible.
Sure.
I mean, did for a long time. We'd like to get back there. Inflation, like you say, hit us hard. Power cost. Yeah. What was excess power in the Northwest is no longer excess.
That's where we okay.
Yeah, I just have, in regards to your assistance program, looking at our manufactured homes, so they qualify for those. And,
Yes.
And how easy is it for a community member to access that? Might not, English might not be its primary language.
Actually, we have, I wish I could tell you how many different languages we do translate for on our call center. But certainly Spanish is our highest and most used. And so we have people calling and signing up all the time. I mean, it's very, it's readily available, and would encourage, if you know of folks, you have them call our call center, and we'll get them through.
And we did put information about that in our last newsletter, English and Spanish.
Larry, thanks again for being here. I got a question for you here as I looking at the rate increase and 75% of it going to capital improvements and capital costs and the wildfire and our transition to batteries and solar and that. I recognize that PGE is a private company. Okay. And when I expect that you have to make a profit. And the stock buyback that's been happening over the last couple of years, 2021, 22. How does that stock buyback that's happened, that was roughly $30 million? How does that fit into the picture here of rate increases? Now, and I go back to you're going to go through a series of public meetings and utility commission, and I'm sure that question's is not the first time that has been asked. So how does the companies respond to that while we're seeing these rate increases?
So a couple of things come to mind and may have to get you some more detail, but the fact that we have to maintain, this is the commission wants us to maintain a 50% debt to 50% equity. So you got to work both that and make sure that you're staying within that. And so you can't have too much on the equity side. And so causing you to have to buy back is a part of that process as well. The other is, we are as you say, a publicly owned utility in the sense of equity and stock. And it gives us access to a lot of capital that otherwise wouldn't be available. The other part though, is that there's a regulated rate of return. So that regulated rate of return being roughly 9.5% is more or less our interest if you were paying back on your bonds, et cetera. It treated in very much the same way. That's what those investors that are loaning you the money, that's what they want in return. And so that's the expectation. And so it gives us access to those funds and enough capital to be able to build out the system and do the things to step up the improvement. But it's that balance between debt and equity that you have to continue to maintain at all times.
Thank you. I got to process that a little bit and maybe.
Be happy to talk to you further about and give you.
But I appreciate your straightforwardness that there's a buyback formula that you have to maintain. And I don't know who regulates that or who says what you have to do. And your investors have been.
That is the commission.
That's the commission that will regulate that. Okay.
That it's going to be 50-50.
Well, maybe the commission could think about that too, in terms of buying back stock and at the same time having to raise rates. Okay. And the other thing is just, simply the guaranteed rate of return. So that's being paid for by ratepayers.
I have to be honest also in saying we haven't reached that rate of return anytime in the recent past.
Yeah.
It's been more like 8 to 8.5%. So unfortunately.
Well, I'm not at one of the hearings, so I won't go any further here, but that feedback here is maybe I'll show up to one of those hearings and but I'm sure there'll be lots of other people besides me probably asking that question. Any other questions?
I have a couple, if you don't mind. One is on the current rate increase proposal. Again, I haven't read the full language. If I did, I probably wouldn't understand all of it. My understanding was, so you got the rate increase for 2025. I also understood that there's some mechanisms to have some built-in rate increases in the future with not a lesser process, a more streamlined process, if I got that right.
Yeah, so that was a offering to try. So again, trying to recover on the capital investments only, not O&M, administrative, all those things, keeping that completely separated, was the thought of putting in place a mechanism for these things that are compliance related, that you got to change the poles out, you've got to do, some of the new load expansions, those sorts of things, that they would be in a fast track type process, because it takes, again, this 10 months, you got a full staff of commission employees who are having to review and go through and prudency test, et cetera. They spend a lot of time and effort, money. And so the thought was, well, is there a way to reduce and those things that are kind of the no-brainers that tend not to be challenged, is there a way to put that in play? And I know the Citizens Utility Board was doing that in the past with some utilities in Central Oregon. And, you know, they were throwing it out saying, but if I were reading tea leaves right now, I would say, no, just, you know, let's keep going through processing. And so it was in hopes of trying to save time and money for folks. But if it's perceived as being, you know, avoiding prudency, then we really don't want it either. So that's kind of fundamentals where just take those things that are compliance related, mandatory, have to do. And, you know, that part of the business was what we were trying to put on the table.
And my second question on the battery storage, because I know I've been to your operations center, which is, you know, fantastic, and seen how you essentially buy and sell power real time, trying to get the most value out of that. Is part of the thought is, if I'll call it this, your system generates more and you can store it, not to sell at a discount, and or if you can buy bulk power at a discounted rate because others are generating more, you can buy it at a lower rate to store it so you don't have to buy it like peak price. Is that kind of the balance you're trying to go into that with?
I know you have a good job here, but if you ever think you want it, no, that's exactly it. That's you want to be able to try and, you know, at night, obviously it tends to be when the wind blows, and if not a lot of use being, you know, by customers during that period of time, it's a great time to grab it and store it and then sell it off. But you're right. If I can buy it, and again, at a cheaper rate during a different time of the day, stick it in there and then use it out, it levelizes the price for everybody instead of, you know, we have January, that January storm. There were some gas issues up north, drove the prices over $1,000 a megawatt hour. On a normal day, it's about $50 a megawatt hour. So, you know, when you're paying in those peaks like that, that's a killer. And that's really what was happening in the last few years.
So my last question will make you lament your job offer. And that was, you know, there's a lot of talk about, you know, policy, process, public, private, profit. You know, I know it's been about 20 years since the last kind of PUC endeavor for Portland General Electric. You know, none of them really got any steam or were defeated in elections or otherwise. At what point, now that policy is really transcending into the electrification of our region, at what point may that make sense to at least have a different voice, say, or control or understanding of where the rates go, how they're structured, and, you know, where returns are invested back into?
Well, firm believer, and again, I've seen all the colors of money. So whether it's a public utility in Clark, or it's a Bonneville federal agency, or PacifiCorp even as another private. What I would say is that the regulatory process is a really good process. And it, you know, it takes people's participation, people put time and effort into it. So one, it does work and it works really well. Two, I think to your question, which was, you know, public formation of a utility, if you will. What I would say is that Bonneville has allocated all of its preference energy. So what made public utilities really formulate in the 1930s, 40s, 50s was this notion that you could get hydro off of the dams much cheaper and be able to operate. That's no longer available. So a new public utility isn't going to get preference power the same way that the existing utilities have. We do as a private utility also get part of that. It's called a residential exchange. So all of us as citizens paid for the dams through tax dollars. And so all of us should get a benefit. And that was the Northwest Public Power Act of 86, I think it was, that formulated and said, no, everybody gets a share of that. And so even private utilities get a portion of that. So it's very difficult. If you were a new utility starting up, where do I go buy power? If I don't have power plants, if I don't have, where do I go get that energy? That's the number one, the largest cost for utility and also the most volatile right now.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here, Larry. Greg has shared with us his trip to the your center there, and pretty impressive. So, yeah.
Appreciate it. Invite if anybody wants to come down and see it, see how the real time operate, what it looks like to see the grid in action. Happy to give you a tour down there. And as you mentioned, Mayor, you built this building the same time we built. So
Yeah.
I think there's.
Well, you mentioned the questions about the ratepayers and our buyback, your buyback program, and make sure that goes in the record someplace, will you?
I will. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. All right, Seth, you're up for our presentation on the Urban Flood Safety Water Quality District. And we've been, the council has been following this right along, so.
Yes.
Because we got, we got you representing lots of people, including us, on that. Thank you.
All right. Mayor, Council. This is just a quick update on what's been going on with Urban Flood Safety Water Quality District. I think the last time you got an update was back in the fall. So what's happened since then? Or actually, let's go back. Urban Flood Safety District was created to merge the 4 existing legacy districts. The primary problem was that the levee system had lost its certification and needed a large and substantial investment that was beyond the means of the 4 legacy districts. So the legacy districts currently collect somewhere between $9 and $10 million a year in assessments. They were facing a bill for the levee repair of over $150 million. So this was formed by the legislature. It was most recently modified this last short session by Senate Bill 431. That was a cleanup to allow them to charge an intergovernmental privilege fee, as well as take over the assessment authority that the legacy districts had for the area within the floodplain. They solicited an endorsement for that bill. We did not take a position on it, either actively opposing or endorsing. The current board, which is temporary, is charged with eventually dissolving. So the current plan for that is that the dissolution would happen in January 1st of 2025. At that point, in November, there would be an election of 5 new elected board members, as well as 4 appointed members who are appointed by the governor. That's kind of what the district is. So last week, there was a general obligation bond that was available to voters. I'm happy to say it passed with over 60% of the vote. It was for $150 million. They had initially, back when this started, they thought they were going to ask for $100 million. When you guys last got an update about the operating cost, it was 125. There was some discussion about sending out a bond measure for $195 million. Obviously, one of the complications was the governor's tax moratorium that happened last winter, where they didn't want any new taxes in the Portland area because of some pushback they were getting from both citizenry and the business community. After some discussion, the governor was going to look for funding to cover a portion of that. of the projects that were included in the $195 million. And the district was going to forward a bond of 150 million. So that was what was on that's what folks voted for. The impact is about 14 cents per thousand of assessed value across the entire district. When you think about property tax bills, our rate's $3 and 12 cents. So it's a very small portion of, going to be a small portion of your property tax bill. So how's it funded? Oh, forgot to change the label. On the operating side, this is where the changes that were made in the short session come in. So the property tax assessments within the existing 4 districts are going to be vested in the new district. That's going to end up being about $10.2 million of their operating funds. Flood safety benefit fee is going to be allocated across the entire district, which includes basically all of incorporated Multnomah County. Wood Village's portion of that $6.3 million works out to about $40,000. One of the questions that we have for you tonight is whether or not talking about the mechanism for how we would go about collecting and then distributing that to the flood safety district. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up sending quarterly bills to the city for our portion of this. And then we have any legal means available to gather that money and then pay them that fee. So what this works out to for our utility accounts is it would be about $450 if we just did a flat. So they allocated based on population. So if we just allocated it based on accounts, it'd be about $450 a month. If we had a similar split or methodology that we have for between business, multifamily, and residential, similar to what we have in our water and sewer bills, it would be about $1.75 a month to an individual dwelling unit, multifamily or single family. So the question of how to fund it is we have a couple different ways we could go about doing it. The two that are kind of the most obvious would be either incorporating it into our existing street utility fee, because the street fund is the street stormwater fund. So the monies collected through our street utility fee can be used for stormwater. The other option is to pass a flood safety stormwater rate. Oh, and that should be 2025, not 2023. Flood safety stormwater rate to go on the bills come the new bills in January. So those are two of the options that are kind of most obvious. Right now, we're working as a group and polling different cities for how they want to go about incorporating this charge. It's a little different for each city because some cities have a joint sewer stormwater fund rather than a street stormwater fund. So that's kind of the question tonight is, do you guys have a preference on how we go about building this into our bill collection?
And it's not necessarily you're deciding what it's going to be. It's more of your preferences or additional questions. So we then can bring back what that would actually look like.
Just a clarification, I thought that this was going to be incorporated on the property tax statements that weren't coming from the city. I thought it was going to be incorporated through this new
You're a county.
well, it's the new UFSWQD board. What, Seth, did I miss something in the process here?
No, that's why we're coming to you with an update.
Okay, because that isn't going to happen.
No, originally the original legislation was attempting to come up with a fee that could be potentially billed from the flood safety district that had a consistent methodology across all cities. What we ended up running into is not everyone has the same information stored within their utility system or the same data they would need to do that so that it's consistent across Portland, Gresham, the 3 cities, and parts of Lake Oswego. All the people that were having to pay a portion of this. And The district was fairly limited because it's a special district and doesn't have the same taxing authority or fee authority that a city has to be able to implement this. So we kind of faced what ended up coming up was we're either going to have to try and make a massive change and essentially share information between cities' utility systems to try and come up with one that can pass legal muster or challenge.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Does this get around the 5003 or whatever that tax maximum that we can get? And then because Portland is maxed out, that they could get away from it? Is that why we're doing this?
No,
No?
and they
And that's
never,
why all of the other-
the district never had the ability to have property tax pay for their operations. The idea was
Right,
always
okay,
that we
that's what I'm
would,
getting at.
property tax would pay for the capital portion, which was the biggest driver of this. But they never were able to receive in the.
Well, I guess we passed, the voters passed
Bond,
the bond.
pay for the capital.
And so now we're going to pay our portion
For
It's-
operating.
for operating. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's, I understand how you've explained I know we wanted it to not have to go back to the city. But I think I'm following it. And at this point, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
Cities are going to have to figure out
And
how they're going to pay their
And
portion.
a couple of slides back, that was done in the last short session, was a legislative, I'll call it amendment to the original underlying legislation that essentially said this flood, called district, this flood entity has the ability to charge cities their proportionate share. Those cities then may pass on those costs to underlying community members at any legal means that a city has. And so for us, because of our charter restriction, this could be seen as a privilege tax and we have the tax preemption. However, the legislative act actually preempts that. And that was our work, CES work to really bring down what are reasonable operating costs for the district, knowing that that was going to reduce our community share of those operating costs.
And I'll also mention, one of the reasons why they also moved away from that was we can turn off water. Can't really turn off floods, stormwater. You can't really prevent it from coming. So they looked at starting up, the cost of starting up their own billing and collection and what rates of return, the compliance rates that they would get with that. And it was going to be multiple millions of dollars just to run a collection system and account for people who didn't end up paying. I mean, you think about yards tax. I think the first year they got below 50% compliance with that, and they're still not up into the 90s. And they've been spending a lot of money trying to collect that. So part of it was also from the cities that we recognize that in the end, our citizens are going to be paying this, whether it's billed from one way or the other.
Yeah.
And we would prefer that it's be done most efficiently, rather than not necessarily have to take the blame for it.
Yeah.
And we did push with the legislation for a number of things, which were restrictions on on how fast this can grow. So they're basically capped at CPI. They can't pass that fee on more than what the inflation is. And some other thing, like Greg mentioned, some other things we pushed for. They initially wanted this to be an intergovernmental tax and push intergovernmental privilege tax. And we pushed back on that because of some concerns we had with the state thinking that having local governments tax each other was going to be the solution to financial problems.
Let me see if there's any more questions.
Well,
Council.
I guess I'm just, so we would be, if with the information here is about $1.75 if we go that route.
If we go kind of that similar, call it methodology of kind of how we break up our current water and sewer rates for the different classes.
And so would we be adding that as a fee, or is that through our existing fund, we have that to cover it?
It would be a new
A
fee
new fee.
that would show up on their bill.
And so passing the need flood safety stormwater rate, is that same thing, or is that something different that we would have to go to our residents, our citizens and say?
So, I mean, there's a couple ways to do it. I mean, it's 40,000 a year now and then, indexed. I mean, you all could say, we'll just eat it and we'll pay it, not pass it along. You could say, well, part of our street and storm fee will go towards that. You also are very well of the margin that isn't built into our street and storm fee. So that means we got to reduce the project somewhere for that amount. You could say, okay, well, we're going to add a new line item showing that this new entity is charging us and that's where that money is going. Or I'll call it any combination there too, where you say, we'll pay X to buy down the rate for others. I mean, there really isn't a right or wrong answer. And that was, again, Seth describing the complexities of trying to come up with one methodology where some cities charge based on impervious surface. We don't collect that data. So it's
Or we
kind of,
could call it a flood safety benefit fee and call it what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
When would this have to be implemented by, this coming up calendar year?
So January 1st, 2025.
Oh, so we have a little bit of,
A little bit of time. I mean, this would, so
Educate the public
the
is
thought
what
is
you're
we
getting
would incorporate this into the outreach we would be doing.
yeah.
And then also the ordinance where we typically set our water sewer rate increases for January 1st.
My piece of my concern here is not the 40,000. My concern is that the perception of another tax, and we're going to be looking at a public safety where at least our fire could be costing us more. And it's more of a perception for me to show a tax here and then might have to go back to our citizens for a substantial increase if we, depending on how we move forward with our fire discussion. So we got time to think about that, but we've got two options here. Plus the third option is that we consider it a part of doing business and don't identify it any place. We don't have to do that, but that's all accurate. We got these two options, and then we have an option to build it into our operating costs. Is that accurate?
We could, general funds are unrestricted, so we could cut a check out of the general.
And I'm not
Yes.
suggesting that at all right now, but I just want to make sure that we leave here
Yeah.
with what the potential options are. And if there's something else that comes up, we can, let us know.
The other point I'll make is that in terms of percentage of the combined water bill, this is would fall somewhere between 1.5%.
Yeah.
1.75% additional increase. So that's the scale we're talking about.
Yeah, it's almost incidental, almost, but it won't be incidental for some people when they see a new tax. So, or however we want to explain it. So,
I think it's another opportunity too, just to educate and be transparent though. Kind of sharing all these options. I think it's important that we do that. Come the time when we have to look at our fire safety and things of that nature. But the importance of what this provides, the residents and what that capital and operations also, that brings us and why that cost is there.
And the good news was there was generally strong support for the capital bond as reflected by the passage last week of the 50 million. So it did polled well. And after people kind of, that's one thing I will say about the flood safety district. They've prepared a lot of educational materials and they've come out to a number of our events, to do some booths. And so we really are trying to get the word out on both how important this is and how it's going to need to be paid for.
Good. Well, we have time to think about it. And again, I think the good thing is we have some time and the questions here and being transparent and as we ask for increase in costs, people know why we're doing it because we may have to come back and ask for a more substantial cost later.
The night out could be an opportunity
Mhm.
for at least some, formal engagement and education piece.
Okay, if there's no further questions. Thanks, Seth, for the update. And now we have our Mount Hood Community College bond and legislative updates. And sorry for I think we put you on the agenda to accommodate maybe some schedules, but you got to listen to some Wood Village business.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Diane, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all too. Hi. Okay,
And so if you arrow down, it'll go to the next slide because I've sent a PDF. So you just want
This
to
one?
arrow down. Yeah.
okay, you can do that. Sure.
Okay. I'll try.
You can be in charge of the technology. Okay, well, thank you all for having us here, mayor and city councilors, we appreciate this opportunity to meet you and to share our plans for Prepare, Invest, and Connect in Mount Hood Community College. So the college is considering placing a bond on the November ballot this year. And right now, we are in the process of sharing our proposal around the community, both internally and externally, and getting feedback to see if these projects are what really serves our community needs. So, but first, I want to share a little bit about the college with you. So who we are. Whoops, it didn't go.
See if that does that. Down. Oh,
There. Okay.
It just took 2 clicks to get it.
Oh,
can you, Diane, if we can
oh, I'm sorry.
introduce,
You need to introduce.
yeah, and I know you're both on the board, I believe.
No, Charles
board.
is not a.
Okay,
Oh,
Diane,
yes,
you're still
I'm
on.
vice chair of the Board of Education. Sorry, I got
Thank you.
it. Yeah, and with me,
Charles George, I'm the associate.
Good, thank you. And thanks for being here because this is something that's very important to our community.
yes, yes, and thank you, Mayor, for keeping me on track already here. So Mount Hood Community College was founded nearly 60 years ago. We have over 1,000 employees at 3 locations. We are a 950 square mile district, 82nd Street in Portland, along the Columbia River up to Cascade Locks, over to Government Camp, and parts of Clackamas County to the south, including Sandy, Boring, parts of Damascus, and Happy Valley. So we have nearly 250,000 registered voters in our district. So our programs we have at the college, we have Head Start, 21 sites in the county. We have dual credit in high schools. And for adults, we offer degrees and certificates for credit and not for credit, CTE and transfers. In the fall of 2024, we will launch our first bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. And it is, we're very excited about that. The legislature approved community colleges being able to offer bachelor's degrees if there was not a program that was readily available to go to in the area. So we were approved as the second in the state to offer a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. We also serve 6,000 plus apprentices working in over 20 different trade fields. So we want to share a few of our accomplishments. We recently were named number 4 in the country for all community colleges for highest quality education that is most affordable. And we were the highest in Oregon to be with that ranking. We have more than 1 million students that have learned with us. And each year, the data shows that the college contributes over $423 million to our local economy, which we think is a great investment for our taxpayers. So let's look at our students. We have last year's numbers, we served 18,500 students. 36% were BIPOC, 21% of those Hispanic. And most students are part-time and the average age of our students is 28. So we like to kind of measure locally, and here's what we found in Wood Village right now is we have 17 students and 4 employees that call Wood Village their home. So what is a bond election? And I'm sure many of you are familiar with why educational entities go out for bonds. Community colleges are similar to school districts in that our residents provide capital funding, not like the state, like they do for universities. So we're in a little bit, we're in the higher education bucket, but we do not have it's K through 12, higher education. But we do not have the same resources that four-year universities do to go out for capital funding. So that is why we need to pass a bond. So we are exploring a possibility for a November ballot for our bond. So in determining the proposed bond, we've taken a few steps. We have done a lot of research and data about the needs. And most importantly, we have not passed a bond for 50 years. And now this is for our facility, so think about that. And our current campus was built for $12.5 million, the current one, yeah. So, and our facility staff have done an excellent job of using resources wisely and preserving our taxpayers' investment in all those years. So to determine the proposed bond, as I said before, we've done a lot of research and a lot of collection of data. So this is based on our strategic plan, our academic plan, our enrollment plan that led the college to develop a 5-year comprehensive facility plan. Projects and needs in those plans total over $200 million. We then formed a bond development work group of community members, employees, students, and board members. Over a series of meetings, they worked to define and prioritize the list of projects. We took that list and did polling to see how the projects resonated with the community. So here is our bond committee, our bond development work group, and I think you will recognize one of your counselors who was on our bond development group. Thank you. We appreciate your time. These are all volunteers, and we're so appreciative of everyone that was on this group because they really took it seriously and looked at what would be the best for the college, and we appreciate that. So we have put our theme of prepare, invest, and connect. So the bond will positively impact our community and students in 3 ways. It will prepare our students for success through safe and modernized classrooms to meet the needs of education. It will invest in facility improvements that repair and maintain our current assets, and it will connect us with our community. So to do this, we are proposing a $131 million bond. And Charles, Through the projects here.
It's my favorite part. It's facilities. So some of the stuff that we focused on. Thank you.
Mhm.
Our health professions folks, specifically nursing, are located in the Cal Bruning Center, which is on Civic Drive in Gresham. And then the remainder of the programs are on our main campus here in Gresham. And so there's been a little bit of a disconnect between some of our health professions programs. So what we want to do is bring the nursing students back in, repurpose some of our existing spaces and bring the nursing facilities and equipment and the labs up to current day standards and give them a common area to work out of. And that'll improve collaboration, training, and then cross-disciplinary learning. So they're not kind of training in pockets with separate equipment, have the most up-to-date equipment. And then some of the things you'll hear about too as we go through some of this, one of the areas of focus was modernizing science labs as well as our classrooms. So not having a bond passed in 50 years, the majority of our classrooms, other than what we've been able to upgrade, have original furniture in them. I did a little video clip last week and we're in one of our classrooms, 1309 in the academic center. And half of the seat backs are missing, some of the tables are missing, and the chairs are like 1960s size, right? So it's like, people don't fit in there. But we have done our best over time to paint and update furniture where we can. The campus is really large, and without passing that bond, we're kind of behind over time, right? So the science labs, we want to improve safety, storage of chemicals. We want to give them modern technology and modern equipment that they're going to use when they're out, either at a university or out in the work world. And also support, student completion as part of a skilled workforce. The newer equipment, newer things will put them closer to where they're going to get when they're out in the job world. And then one of the ones that keeps me awake at night at times is some of safety and security. So that's a big focus for us. We currently do not have lockdown abilities. We've been slowly changing out door sets, but a lot of our door sets, the person has to go outside, put the key in and turn it to lock it. We're slowly switching over hardware to do like a flip lock inside, but we want to get to a place where we can lock down the facility quickly without allowing entrance into the buildings and respond quickly in emergency. So that's a big focus. Some of our fire safety systems are outdated and also don't interact with some of the other systems. And then seismic. So with all of our buildings being built in the late 60s, early 70s, I have a variety of areas on campus that need seismic upgrades. We've put in for state grants on different times, like I think 16, 17, 18, I applied with our architect on seismic grants, and we didn't make the list for that. So those are still a focus of mine. Our library has a discontinuous shear wall. It's a big risk. Each of the sections in between the academic center buildings, the seismic joints need to be replaced. And then our gymnasium, which is also a Red Cross emergency shelter, where the dome on the top attaches to the building is not sufficient for a seismic event. It's a Red Cross emergency center. And then a couple other building walls and things. And then another big focus for us was accessibility. With most of the building designs, again, being in the 60s, there have been a lot of improvements in accessibility and travel and furniture and all of these things that we could use at the campus. So, we're preparing those projects. We want to repurpose some of our spaces, update labs, and then make everything safe for our folks, the community, and our employees and the students. So I talked a little bit about that, but renovate student and interior spaces. So our library, oh, sorry, I didn't hit the button. So our library and then a majority of our classrooms are in need of update and technology and the seating and accessibility and all of those things. So, and then something we learned during COVID, we had to do that rapid shift to a remote environment. There's a lot of technology that came out of that is super helpful for the hybrid learning experience, where you have some people in the classroom, some people at home, and you have the technology to make them feel like they're in the classroom and give that flexibility to students. Our IT folks are working to try to get more of that type of equipment in the spaces too, to make it more of a flexible learning environment for everybody. And then update, repair, and preserve our college assets. So that's another thing that I focus on very regularly. So we have a very long deferred maintenance list, which my boss likes to be called the asset preservation list. But we want to upgrade aging computer labs, our network. We've been installing, as we upgrade areas and we're doing projects, we're adding energy efficiency upgrades wherever we can. And updates to central heating, cooling, all of my building operating systems. So we've been replacing them as we remodel, but we have a lot of aged HVAC equipment and units as well. We're doing a good job keeping them running, but can only keep them running so long. And then we've also applied, in addition to like the seismic grants that I was talking about, we have applied for other state grants, including 8 million of funding from the state of Oregon. So we're still out there trying to get things. We haven't had a lot of success, but we are tackling a lot of areas. That guy too. And then one of the ones that I'm excited about and I've been actively involved too is our athletic and community pool improvements. I don't know if any of you saw the inflatable like dome system that we used to have over the 50-meter pool. We had that for about 15 years, and then that thing reached end of life. We had a door blow out and part of it rip open. So we were sad when that happened because that was giving us some wintertime opportunity for folks to use that outdoor pool. And it's one of the few Olympic-sized pools in the state. So with that, looking at that, we're working on a retractable cover system, not trying to build a whole new building, but a system that opens and closes and covers the pool, and to increase our community involvement in the wintertime, being able to use the pool, practices, lap swimming, a variety of events and things that can take place putting that retractable cover in. And we want to bring more events to East County and leverage state and local contributions. So when there's more opportunity for those events, we bring more people here to where we want to be. And then accessibility, I know I've said it a few times, but we really want to make sure we can extend that to every student, staff, visitor, anybody that has access to the campus. Improve our existing elevators. I've been able to replace one of them since I've been in command over there, and I've got quite a few that are aged and need to be replaced. And then we want to look at our restrooms and making them more accessible and available for all types of folks that need to use those as well. That.
Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to add on the pool that the state tourism data shows that the pool generates about $2 million a year for the community. And if you talk to our hoteliers, what they really want and is generates the best for them are the swim meets that come. We had a lot of them prior to our dome collapsing because we do have the pool, the premier pool that swimmers are looking for in the state competition to make their times for trials and different. So the pool is a economic driver for the community. And also I want to comment on the restroom. We just had our meeting, our board meets with our students. It's usually once a year. We like to do it twice, but getting everybody together is difficult. Probably their biggest thing they talked about was please fix the restrooms. And also, we're not building anything new in this bond. We have the ability to repurpose that what we have, as Charles was talking about with the programs and the programs surrounding that are can all be together. We can have we have the ability to have better student spaces and, but we're not building a new building. Are repurposing. And we have the ability to. So, because our district is so large, we're able to spread the cost out. So our 131 million costs the average homeowners $5 a month. So we believe that this investment in the future of college will provide significant difference. And remember, we offer quality, affordable education for our folks that live out. And in addition, the construction of these projects will as well having an extra benefit. So our bond timeline, you can see we're at number 3, which is community input. And so we're, that's, as I said before, what we're doing, going out, talking with folks, getting input back. And the board will use this feedback, and we are going to do more to decide when we will put it. But the decision will be driven by the data package, which looks like that will be a July date that we're looking. Or not do that if data shows, but the campaign then begins. All hands on deck for that campaign, so.
Diane, would you go over those dates again that you're getting the community input now?
Yeah.
Board action to place on the ballot, what that would be when?
We're looking at a first reading and some more polling.
Yeah.
Final would be July.
Coming right up. I mean, and so the bond campaign would have how much time to campaign?
Well, July, if we approve it, it'll be the middle. Oh, I think our meeting's on the 10th actually of July. So that would be when we would have.
And you'd put it on the November ballot?
Mhm. Yeah, if our polling shows that's the time for us to go.
Have you done any polling yet?
Yeah, we did sort of an initial polling.
Yeah.
And so early on, so then this polling will be now that we've been out of.
Okay.
Support is.
Okay. All right. Questions? Comments?
Comments more than anything, having gotten lost over at the campus many times, being confused and in a hurry to try to find certain places and things. I just want to compliment the facility is just absolutely phenomenal. I worked at St. Vincent Hospital for 6 years and just as a building engineer. And that campus is just built like, it's just fantastic. And one day I'd love to take a tour of the actual, underground stuff, like all the facilities and all of the networks and things that you got over there. And I'm speaking of the heating, air conditioning and that type of thing. But keeping it up is a great thing to do. And this is really great what you're doing. I kept waiting for the page that would get to all of the parts where you would save money by building money into it, like in the heating and air conditioning and things like that. And so that's just wonderful. I saw all of these other things were really good, but saving money is a large part of that. And I think I should think that you should add that to your ploy and that you're going to end up saving money by increasing the buildings heating and air conditioning, by insulation, I imagine, right? And doing those kind of things. And I would say this is a great plan. Otherwise.
I mean, those points are well taken, Counselor. And I don't even know about insurance costs, when you got earthquake, vulnerable.
So
building, so.
you have boilers that you use for the central plant?
We do. So The one thing that we were kind of forced to do by not having passed a bond, but it worked out well for us. We partnered with Johnson Controls, so JCI.
Okay.
And so they partnered with us on an installation to replace the boilers. I think it was 2009, 2011, and the chillers. Because we had these, I mean, the original 60s boilers, you know. And
So you're way ahead of the game on
so
that.
central plant wise, we're doing pretty well because through that performance contract we did with them, we replaced that equipment and then they received a portion of the savings over time for the central utility plant type stuff. That impacts the academic center. All the other buildings still have their older equipment, rooftop units and.
Okay, they're
and things as
evaporators
well.
and what have you like that. Yeah, gotcha. So
Counselor.
that's where it's, yeah, going to pay off later.
And then
Okay.
building envelope stuff, you know, like windows and our, you know,
Yeah.
roofing and lighting.
Counselor Ria Campos first, thanks for serving on that advisory committee. So.
Is
your
that our
comments?
Patricia Smith also? That's-
Yes.
No, that's
That's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a privilege to really be able to look further in detail in the plans of what the bond can look like. There was the focus was investment back into the community. So looking at the college as one of those only facilities that is very unique to our area and provides so much, you know, as an education, affordable, nearby, and looking at those other facilities as the pool, as it was mentioned highly. I think that was a big focus of mine because again, just looking at a different angle and community use of what that space can bring. So it was just it was great to see that that's where kind of the college is looking to reconnect back into the community. So not only looking for themselves, but what does it bring for our region as that educational piece. So having my wife gone to school there, you know, there is a big investment locally in affordability. So just looking forward to what those next steps can look like.
Thank you, Counselor. The one, I would say I've been waiting for this for a bond campaign again. And I've been involved in watching the failures and I've been certainly living it as a educator in the area. And the pool is, I think, a driver for community engagement. And I'm glad to hear that statistic because I know it's an Olympic pool because all our swim teams in the state swim meets were always held there. And it's so overall, I do know community college are a driver of economic vitality and mobility for the population that they serve. We just as a sidelight, we offer our Wood Village Opportunity Scholarship, and we give a scholarship out to our Wood Village residents. And it's a scholarship for kids that are going to go to Mount Hood. They could be GED students. They could be 24-year-old adults that are living here and have finally found their way in life and want to go back to a community college. And we offer that every year just to do our small part to promote the opportunities that Mount Hood Community College brings. The congratulations, the bachelor degree for a community college to get a bachelor degree program, it's almost unheard of. And that was a fabulous success story. My one observation here that I think is fabulous too, that the college is doing, the Pony Soldier Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of researching that because I'm seeing it. And I find that the college is with a grant from another nonprofit they're involved with rebuilding of that Pony Soldier Motel for student housing. So just the innovation of the board, Diane and your president, I think it just speaks so highly of the work that's being done there without the resources that you really need, that this community needs. I think 130, is it 61?
131.
I wished it was more, you know, and I know that's already
It
been.
originally cost 12 million.
That already has been set. And you've worked that through you've worked those numbers through. So you know what your feedback has told you is probably the number it needs to be at. So certainly for me personally, I'm really excited about the bond coming to a point where it's gonna be voted on. So I think you got good people on all those committees. You're getting good input. I don't think I have any other comments to make. If just that keep us posted and let us know how the city or even individually we can work and help support that.
Just a quick
So,
comment.
Greg,
Just a quick comment, and it was something I talked with Dr. Scari about a month ago. We were at a forum and talking about, again, how to connect community to the college as our asset, and that is legislative amendments to the Oregon Promise Program. She mentioned that y'all try to do some changes at the short session. It's a short session. It's difficult. So her and I have been connecting on how to make those amendments to make the Oregon Promise Program, which for those who may not be aware, basically out of high school, it covers the cost of tuition for a student for the 2 years to complete a community college program. There also seems to be some rigid requirements about that in terms of timelines, minimum credits, and we've seen most people are part-time students, which doesn't necessarily fit the Oregon Promise Program. And so we're working to try to do legislative amendments to fix that and allow more people the opportunity to go to Mount Hood or other community colleges through that program.
that's my own grandkids. One graduated at 18 with an associate's degree from Sandy High School because of the dual credit program at Mount Hood. And then the senior now that's going to graduate, he's going to take advantage of the Oregon Promise. So it's those are all. And maybe that's a place that if there needs to be a push legislatively, the cities, and I think all 4 of the cities here should be active in helping pass this bond for sure. And anything we can do to do that.
And I think,
Add up to, and yes, it's College Housing Northwest that's doing the Pony Soldier, but they're renovating all those for students, for student housing. We're very pleased about that because we really have the capacity to do. College doesn't, but this group to come in, and I believe they've done some around Portland State University. I think this is kind of a foray and
Fabulous.
great. Yeah,
Fabulous.
yeah. And then I did also want to mention our foundation at the college. They volunteer citizens who work on the all of the fundraising they do goes to student scholarships. And I think they reached right under $1 million of being able to give out. So, but the need is great. I mean, I have read those applications.
Oh,
But they work very, very scholarships.
but we have a lot of fun with ours, scholarships here. And they're out right now, and then we're going to be starting to look at some of the applicants. So we have, it's great to see an opportunity for a family or student that might not otherwise, make the trip, make the effort. So
Well, thank you for everything. I did bring some of these flyers we have, if you
Thank
want
you.
to
yes,
have those when you're out talking to folks, and I can just leave these with you, and when you're out, this has a lot of our presentations.
thank you.
And when you're out in the community talking to people, you got a reference here.
That's right. Let's get it passed.
But
Let's get it passed.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
As I said, it'll be an all hands on deck. And so we appreciate you. We do.
Well, thanks again for
Thank
being here.
And thank you again for
Yeah.
serving on our bond development. Yeah. Did you enjoy the Build-A-Bond? Did you?
it was again, very insightful, and it's crazy to hear 50 years and, and how the benefit from what that organization, what it brings to our area. So.
Thank you. Oh, I did want to say too, we have these in multiple languages. So if you're doing an event where you need some,
Mhm.
I think we have 7.
we do have, again, on Wood Village Night Out and we
Oh,
got,
we're signed up.
we have a whole summer on fall activities that
Yeah.
we can promote and be active and
And let us know about that. I know we're signed up to be the night. And,
Yep.
but any other things or any groups you want us to talk to, we really are out gathering information.
okay, good. Good.
Thanks.
All right. That dome in the middle of that gym, I attended Mount Hood in 70 and 71. I'm glad that dome was in good shape then, right? I wouldn't want to be out there in those classes, but,
Correct.
and I played football on their first team. No, it's the second team they had out there. And the field is, and that stadium is also a great venue, but it needs updating. It needs a little help, but so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope. Gets me fired up here. Director of Public Works, Erica, nice to see you.
It's good to see you guys. All right, Mayor, counselors, let's talk about this last month. So last month, we kind of talked about it last month too. But our last Big Belly was installed on Wood Village Boulevard and Arata. We had a lot of great comments about that one. We've started our CCTV sewer project. We actually completed our second week last month. And we will continue to do that monthly until the project is complete. Things are going well with that. We're learning a lot about our system and probably some future upgrades that we need to do. And then on Sandy Boulevard, we had a great collaboration with Multnomah County. Actually give them a shout out for joining in on this project and acting pretty quickly to help us out to restripe Sandy Boulevard. And then our crews installed 12 Jersey barriers. You can see some of these nice pictures. So the striping was continued all the way towards the end of Sandy. So now everything is complete there. I did notice at that same time, they took the opportunity to restripe Halsey, Gleason, and all of our other main roads. So everything is fresh for this season. In the edible garden, there were many plants that were put in this last month. I was given a long list, but there's some mini, let's see, it looks like about 4 different types of tomato plants, 4 different types of peppers, cucumbers, eggplant, and some herbs. So you can look forward to picking from those when they grow. And then Pacific Sports Turf was out for their spring treatment. So what they do in the spring, they aerate, thatch, overseed, and then level out the field. And so that should be, it's looking a lot nicer, and we'll be ready for all the summer sports this season. And then we also welcomed a new employee, Jeremy. He is our newest utility worker 1. We're excited about him joining us. He's actually has many years from Rockwood Water District, so he brings a lot of knowledge onto our team. So that is exciting. For permits and code compliance, so for permits, we had 20 permits issued, 58 inspections were scheduled, and then 33 new cases for code compliance as of last month, and then 31 were closed. And in our water system, so I know last month we were very excited. We had an 8% loss, so we're under that 10%. We're now back up to the 13%. But just for transparency, we actually noticed one of our so we read to the 100th cubic foot and bill that for our residents for water bills. We had noticed that there was one meter that we had swapped out, and it was actually reading to the single cubic foot. And so I kind of want to take that opportunity to just show that our water loss, due to how small we are, it's one thing can really affect it. So it was really just one meter reading more digits than we would normally read, if that makes sense.
What happens is when you pull the read into the system, it automatically multiplies the read by 100. So, which is fine if you're reading at the 100 cubic foot level, but if you're reading all the digits, you're multiplying that number by 100. And so that's what happened with the previous month. Our water loss was about the 15% we had been seeing once we adjusted that consumption for that particular customer. So that was just one meter in the system, made a big difference.
One meter.
It was a large use.
3% or 2%?
Well, it went from 8% to 15%. So that one consumption calculation made a huge difference.
Oh.
But it was again multiplied by 100, so significant.
Everything is fixed now.
It's fixed.
So find
Our
3 more
system
meters
lost.
and we'll be under.
But it just shows that I know we've been over 10% for quite some time. We're still working some theories to try to figure that out, but it just shows that though it may seem like a lot, one little thing can kind of affect it a lot. So
It shows that we need a meter test bench.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of our red meters are getting swapped out. We now have a system that we're swapping them out. So theoretically we're rotating through them before they really get any significant.
Yeah, I've even found brand new meters to be incorrect.
Mm. Yeah.
We
So
got going.
that is what we did last month. So
Okay.
short and sweet.
I said I was going to ask this question, and the big bellies, I have a question. When we're emptying those, are they, how often are we emptying them? Do we have a pattern yet developed or?
We haven't quite gotten a pattern yet. It seems like the byways, it's been 2
Highway
weeks.
and bottle drop are pretty frequent. The one by Euro King also gets used a lot. It's got an extensive online system, so we're still working on setting
see.
up all the notifications and everything for
Yeah.
that.
And is it working pretty well, the notification and ringing the bell whenever it's supposed to ring the
Yeah,
bell?
so
when it's
we
ready?
finally have the email set up, so get an email replaced. I think that they've emptied the one at the Wood Village Boulevard in Arata once, but not the one on the walkway yet at
Well,
all.
that one you won't have to empty it very often anyway, because we're picking it up.
So were you able to replace that 1 meter box that you didn't have to be turned upside down to?
But we're still working on that.
Oh.
That is still on the list.
Well, good.
Project, but
Well, thanks, Erica. If there's no other questions.
thank you.
Great guy. Just a general question. I know last week was the Public Works Week.
Yeah.
Was there a invite to attend the joint
Yes.
day? Was there really? Okay. I missed it.
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, there's
Okay. Well, I
in
missed it.
Mountvale at Glen Auto. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I apologize for not going. My wife and I were both sick.
Well, I've gone to them and I like to, they serve pretty good food usually, so I try to make it, but I don't know, I missed the invite.
I missed the invite too, but I heard this time the food wasn't all that good.
You heard the food wasn't all that good?
Yeah, someone told me.
Well, maybe my standards are
was that-
pretty low.
Did you go?
Missed it.
Did you go?
I went.
And you didn't like,
I enjoyed the food.
You didn't mind the food?
I meant food was good.
All right, well, let's see if we can get a Director of Finance report.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, councilors. Included in your packet is the finance report through April 30th. I will point out that we're still monitoring the business income tax. They keep saying that it's supposed to be coming in consistent with our budgetary levels, but they're waiting. It seems like they're waiting till the last 2 months to distribute it. I will say, if you look back at the amounts from 2 years prior, we're in line with where that was at this time, and we did hit budget in that case. So something still to monitor, but not a lot we can do at this point. I also wanted to give you guys an update on the 911 user board. We have been corresponding with various jurisdictions for upcoming vote in July on cost allocation. And I did send a letter in that regard to the chair's chief of staff, letting them know that there might be some budgetary impacts for their budget next year if that vote goes through and we decide to allocate some of those costs to the county emergency medical services. So that's the update of what's been
If
going on.
the cost distribution making headway, that AMR, is that what you said? That AMR might start paying some of their
Yeah, after our
fair
meeting,
share.
Greg and I attended a meeting with Gresham City Manager and their police and fire chief to go over the proposal and answer their questions.
Okay.
I also met with the Portland Fire's business manager and operations chief to go over some questions that they had. I've reached out to everyone on the board, user board, to offering to meet with them and cost allocation issues and make sure that they're all answered before the next meeting.
So we got some of our neighboring cities figuring it out. It could save them some money, huh?
To be fair to our neighboring cities, it's been 6 years since we started this process, so some of them might have some cobwebs, justifiably so.
Or
Have
change.
cobwebs?
Cobwebs.
Or change in personnel all right, then you got to keep up to date on that, Seth.
All right.
Any other questions for finance?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I've got my notes here. We'll start with some APP updates and then go some other general components. So our gateway sign redesign replacement, you'll see that they're working on them now. And if you're driving by, you may think that the sign itself is really low. That's the foundation. So don't panic like I did over the weekend when they did a pour on Friday and thinking you're not going to be able to see it. There were two parts to the first, I'll call it round of pours. The first one was, call it flattening out the current foundation. And they built up the new foundation for the sign, which on the renderings could look like the top, how they have the bevel. That's actually the bottom of the new sign. So when you're driving by, that's the bottom. And then they're going to start building up the rest of it. So no worries there.
Concrete to settle and yeah.
And we're having it tested and inspected. So everything's gone really well. Very
They're
pleased with
working
that.
really fast too.
Regional fire discussions, again, we have that June 17th. Sent out a notice about that with an agenda. So I know we'll have some people missing. Some of the other cities will have some stuff missing, but it should be a good conversation and discussion, especially around finalizing an RFP for analyzing service provider options.
What time is that meeting again?
6 o'clock.
And then we're hosting it.
It'll be here.
Yeah.
And then you got an update on our facility security at a previous council meeting. So that's wrapped up and done well. So APP is chugging along, doing well with that. Non-APP items, we met with representatives from County Office of Sustainability, myself, Caroline, and Council President Rios Campos to look at putting in mini splits inside of manufactured home parks or units. And we're going to have a follow-up meeting on that tomorrow to basically roll out what that could look like to get that out this summer. The county is kind of proposing a kickoff project that would do maybe about 35 to 40 homes. That would install mini splits inside the home, so it's more comfortable in the summertime, also more efficient heat in the wintertime. And so they have access to both state and federal funds, and since we're a Justice 40 community, they can access those federal Justice 40 funds for this project. So we hope to be able to kick it off here probably, I'll say within like by end of June time, hopefully get people signed up and get those interest forms and qualifications in.
Good work.
Um,
Great if we can pull that off.
In terms of right-of-way maintenance, we've had Cultivate out twice now, taking of most of the hill section there at 238th. We've also started working on kind of a scope of work that they'd be our provider starting in July. So we put in the budget $25,000 for extra county right-of-way maintenance support. They're very interested in that workability, coming out once a week, tackling targeted areas. So we're getting that kind of wrapped up and underway. So hopefully come July, they can start really tackling it. So still looks a little shaggy in some areas, but hopefully by the end of summer, everything's caught up and we can keep it up with that
Greg,
partnership.
tell me again, 238th, the center medium down
Yes.
here, Arata. Is Arata on
So,
the conversation?
Yes, Arata is on the conversation. So the areas of focus, especially during the, call it the growing season, will be 238th, both sides of the hill section. And then 238th essentially from Halsey to Sandy, and again, taking care of graffiti litter and then some of the tall vegetation by the interchange. Halsey west of 238th, especially on that south side. And then Arata Road, and then portions of Wood Village Boulevard, especially more between Halsey and Arata. That section tends to get more overgrown than the section we maintain. Since we have our park there and we have to keep
Okay.
that edging done, we can hit that.
Okay.
Is it all of Arata? Or is it
Our
Wood Village?
portion of Arata. And then for kind of side projects, certainly ivy removal in the park, trail maintenance support. So they seem very interested and willing for that. We had a meeting with the joint office, and by we, that was the 3 area city managers as well as the mayors. We met last week with Commissioner Stegman and then the director of the joint office with then the East County liaison, talking about say priorities for the upcoming budget year, as well as again, reinforcing the service needs in our region. And while we don't have anything concrete or specific of here are the programs, projects, or initiatives being launched, there is an understanding from the joint office that their current contractual relationship with providers is broken and doesn't provide for full accountability. That's something they are working on. And there's acknowledgement that the needs of the 3 cities is different than the needs of Inner Portland, and that we need to continue to cross-collaborate to serve those most in need. So while I don't have, here's a solution, I do have, at least we're getting more positive forward conversations. One thing the joint office did is allocate specific funds to East County in the upcoming budget year. The question is, what exactly is that going towards is still kind of question marked. But we have a meeting next week, again, city managers with the director of the joint office. So hopefully we can flush more of that out. And then lastly, we met with Metro today on our large park grant, the $250,000 park grant for the Nature Park Improvement Project. We had an on-site for about an hour, only rained for about 20 minutes of that hour, which was nice. And so this was the grant selection committee. So I had Metro representatives, community stakeholders, and other interested parties. I think from our perspective, it went well. They seemed to like the project, very interested in it. Ironically, coming from Metro, they were concerned about no parking on site, which again, irony wasn't lost on me, but we also explained how a lot, we showed them the neighborhoods immediately adjacent to that, as well as the sidewalk access along Arata Road and to the original village. So as well as potential future plans, hopefully with the Grand Ron, of developing a master plan for the rest of their site that then feeds into that park development as kind of a continuation of whatever builds there. It's kind of a two-way, both benefit from whatever develops there. So again, a great conversation. It was also mentioned that they have actually more funding than grant requests, and there's a potential to get more than what we asked for, which may help backfill the grant that we didn't receive, which this grant group was surprised we didn't get the first grant, so.
What's their timeline on, decisions on?
Later this summer, I think. I think it was when it gets announced.
Yeah. Well, it sure seems like a strong application to me when we have the grant conversations beginning with the tribe too. So
Yeah, so it was a real positive meeting. And then very last is I did have the opportunity last week to sit in as a panelist on the Fairview City Manager interviews. And so I got to talk with who the council selected, Laura Conroy. Certainly passionate for the area while she works for the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. She actually is, I think, lives in Gresham, or certainly call it more East County. Passionate about this region, passionate about Fairview, did her homework on it, and looking forward to that working relationship with our new neighboring city manager.
Well, that leads us to any questions to Greg about what he shared with us. Right, then we have mayor and council comments. I'll just remind council that we got Greg's evaluation and Beck has sent it out. So we want to get those back into her so she can take them and emphasize them what you're gonna do, collate them. Collect all those comments
Yeah, I think I put by the end of this week, right?
at the end of the month, but
Yeah, the same
At the end
thing.
of the week.
It's the end of this week.
well, I'm just trying to remember that I haven't done it.
Because it has to be collated for the packet that goes out next week.
God dang.
You guys need to hurry up.
You turned yours in.
I already turned my.
No, we need a longer month.
We've got a trailblazer. Yeah.
Any other council comments?
Oh, yes, I had the opportunity to go to the the Northwest Natural Gas showing of the modern hydrogen where they had the dignitaries of the area show up in public opening of their plant downtown Portland. And that was really interesting to see. And where they're converting natural gas into hydrogen. And they, believe it or not, they have a plant down there. It's a pretty big sized box where you can't really see what's going on, where they heat natural gas to, are you ready for this, to 14,000 degrees centigrade. And yeah, utilizing the gas itself. Right, and they burn off the carbon out of it, and they take the carbon out of it, and then they have, the only thing left is hydrogen. And they put it into the gas system, and then it will affect the area, depending on the time of the year, up to from 5 to 14 miles around the area of Portland. And that is carbon-free natural gas. Well, hydrogen, product.
And remember, we saw that over there at the plant at the visitor center. So now this is the actual application that they talked to us about it there, but this is the application of it. Huh?
Yeah, this is the real deal. It's the only one in the
And
United
they feed it
States.
through the existing gas line.
Yeah, I mean, it's right out there in it.
Huh.
And it's carbon free. So the really cool part is that the amount of carbon that they're pulling off of it is measured in tons.
Wow. Okay.
And so what they do with that, it's carbon black, but not in the carbon black that you use for making pens, colors, or what they would use in the production of tire manufacturing and other things. What they use it for is in road material. And they're also exploring what else they can do with it. And so it's not a product that throw away, it's an actual byproduct that they sell and they make money out of it.
And
But then it not ends up in the air.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So it's really,
and Northwest Natural will be at your second July meeting as well.
Yeah. There. Well, that's interesting.
So I
Also
took-
a real campus, any?
I took lots of photos.
Anything?
No,
Okay.
Greg shared everything already.
He does that stuff, you know, he does. He wants to always talk first.
So I did receive actually something from the port of Portland. They're doing a area of agencies and community-based organizations. And so through the work with Play East, they have invited me to be on one of their work sessions in mid-June. So what comes out of there, I think it's an extended version of what you guys had already done. So now they're kind of doing it more in the community. And so
Excellent. If there's nothing else, council,
I have nothing for you tonight, Mr. Mayor.
okay. We're adjourned.